You're too tall for us today. You're cut.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Honey, you're a great dancer. You're gonna be successful. You can get away from your mother and get great training. Go.
Get away from me.
If there's one show you should binge watch to learn how to be mean, it's Dance Moms. For years, Dance Moms has been notorious for being one of the worst shows on TV in terms of drama and negativity. And let me tell you, the recent reunion was an emotional roller coaster. It was all tears, mascara-streaked handkerchiefs, desperate embraces, and more tears. But in the middle, all the chaos. One voice stood out like a knife, cutting through butter. Chloe Lukasiak. We need to talk about this. For Chloe, attending this reunion was a chance to finally open up about all the pain she endured at the hands of none other than Abby Lee Miller. And let me tell you, it's enough to make your blood boil.
I thought it wasn't enough, like in every single way. And it wasn't until about a year ago that I realized the way I felt about myself were her words still lingering with me, like 10 years later. And I realized that's not who I am, that's not my truth. She doesn't define me anymore. She doesn't get that power over me. And I've started to heal.
During the reunion sit-downs, Chloe Lukasiak confronted demons she thought she had buried long ago. She spoke about her childhood wounds in a raw and painful manner, revealing how, as a kid, she believed everything people said about her. This was especially tough given how Dance Moms went above and beyond to bring out the worst in the girls.
Instead of showing the real Chloe, viewers saw only the scripted lies the girls were made to act out on camera. When asked what advice she'd give her younger self, Chloe's response was nothing short of heartbreaking. She said she would tell her younger self that she's not what people think of her and that she's currently defining her own path.
Other people's opinions of you or who they want you to be don't define you. You are limitless and you're whoever you want to be. And so it's still something I'm working through, but I can say now I'm in a better place than I've ever been.
Chloe also mentioned how important it was for her to attend the reunion. Being around people who suffered the same fate as her healed her spirit and helped her rediscover herself.
And doing the reunion really helped me start to realize what it is that I need to work through, and now I've been working through it, and I just feel like it's a whole new era for me.
We'll get into the pyramid system bias a bit later, but let's talk about Chloe first. She mentioned that Dance Moms stopped being just a competition and turned into pure rivalry. This really upset her and made her feel bad.
That rivalry that was created was, sure, in a sense, good for pushing the two of us to, get better and better, but it really took me down. Sorry, I need to sleep.
Besides draining the girls' self-esteem, Chloe mentioned another struggle, her relationship with Maddie Ziegler. If you remember, one of Abby's tactics was to pit Chloe and Maddie against each other. Looking back, Chloe said this wasn't helpful at all. She thought Dance Moms would be like any other dance reality show, where you learn, improve, push yourself, and work harder. But instead, the producers created unnecessary rivalry and unhealthy competition. Chloe felt that competing against Maddie all the time was pointless because they were on the same team, practicing the same solos with the same dance teacher. She's right. What was the need to constantly make them rivals? Despite all this, Chloe still gave it her best.
I was ready to put in the hours all the time anyway. I didn't need that, and I think it really affected both of us in different ways. And I can't speak for her how she felt, but it felt unnecessarily cruel a lot.
And this brings us to the actual show itself and the specific situations that broke these girls.
Y'all remember how Abby used to grade them from best to worst every week? No, really. Let's talk about this for a minute, y'all. Because what was that? Well, granted, the entire show was super competitive and toxic, but there's one particular bit that never sat well with a lot of people, and that is the pyramid.
The top of the pyramid is Maddie.
I was so happy to be in the top of the pyramid for 2 weeks in a row, but also I kind of feel bad for the other girls because I think they worked very hard.
The pyramid system on Dance Moms was downright awful. Abby used it to rank the kids from the best dancer of the week to the worst, and the lowest performer's photo would be at the bottom. It created a super competitive environment where the girls were constantly comparing themselves in unhealthy ways. Maddie even talked about this on a podcast, saying it made her a perfectionist, and she had to unlearn those habits as she got older. She thought being super competitive and a perfectionist was normal, but it wasn't. It's clear that every decision about the show was made to create conflict, fights, and jealousy.
My thought process when I was younger, also through my dance teacher, was like, you have to be the best. If you don't win, you're not good. And so that was like the mentality when I was so little, and I was such a perfectionist and I was so hard on myself, and now I'm trying to unlearn all those traits. And it's a ongoing battle because I'm like, I'd like some of the traits that I have when I was little because I was so determined and I was like so strong, like headed about everything. But now I'm also like, hey, if I mess up, like, it's not the end of the world. I'm gonna continue.
To add insult to injury, Dance Moms wasn't even scripted. Everything these girls went through was real and raw. The fights, the outbursts, and the performances were all genuine. According to the girls, their moms, and even Abby in interviews, the producers went above and beyond to portray everyone in the worst way possible. The pyramid system wasn't even Abby's idea. It was the producers. According to them, the person at the bottom was labeled
As trash, while the one on top was seen as excellent. Imagine being a kid and being called trash while your dance teacher yelled that you deserved nothing. When someone confronted Abby about using this ranking system, she denied it, saying it had nothing to do with her. And that's just how the show was. Let's take a moment to process this, folks. Picture a team of adults sitting in a meeting, brainstorming ideas for a new show. Someone has a light bulb moment. How about selecting young girls from across the country for a dance competition? Brilliant idea, right? But here's the twist. Dancing alone isn't enough. They decide to spice things up with drama and chaos.
They bring the girls' moms into the mix because, according to the producers, nothing's more entertaining than watching moms fight each other. But wait, there's more! The producers decide that the only way to skyrocket their TV ratings
is to make kids cry and endure mistreatment beyond their breaking point. And who better to do it than the meanest, most insensitive, evil, thoughtless, dramatic, and hostile dance instructor? It's like something out of a nightmare.
A lot of questions about if Abby's mean or not. I would probably just say, like, what you see is what you
That's basically the behind-the-scenes story of how Dance Moms was created. These fully grown, tax-paying adults came up with a ranking system that made the kids extremely competitive. The lowest performer of the week would have her photo put at the bottom and be labeled trash. On top of that, these kids were made to work extremely long hours, especially on the so-called pyramid days. If they didn't act or behave the way the producers wanted, they would be made to repeat it until everyone got it right. Even Abby had to be as dramatic and heartless as possible when delivering the results. And if the producers weren't satisfied, she had to do it over and over again until they got the best shots. And by best, I mean the video where Abby was at her absolute worst, making the girls cry the most. It's like they were playing with these kids' emotions just for the sake of ratings.
It takes us like 3 hours because like we either don't watch it the right way.
Key level of detail on pyramid days was downright shocking. Even the moms and their daughters were expected to walk and react in a certain way throughout the sessions. If they didn't meet the producers' expectations, they'd have to start all over again from the top. And as if that wasn't enough, the producers made the girls and their moms sign super complicated and unreasonable contracts. Leaving the show became way harder than joining it. For years, this vicious cycle continued, and it seemed like no adult cared that the girls were at their breaking point. It's heartbreaking to think about the toll it must have taken on these young girls.
And she really did everything to try and break our contract and pull us out, and eventually did.
Wow.
With the help of Sia, she helped us a lot too. But it was hard.
Luckily, Chloe is in a place now where she can talk about her experience with positivity. She's even grateful for the opportunity because despite its brutality and cost, Dance Moms opened many doors for her. In fact, she credits the show for her success today. It's inspiring to see her turn a challenging experience into something positive.
But I think it really shaped who I am, so I'm grateful for it. It completely has had a role in shaping my identity, so everything happens for a reason.
Well, you're coming out stronger from this. That
Right.
is definitely sure.
That's a win.
Yes, that is.
Of course, the host had to ask Chloe about her relationship with Maddie. Chloe shared that despite being made rivals at a young age, they've grown up and were able to move past it.
It's refreshing to see them rise above the drama and maintain a positive relationship. It sounds like Chloe and Maddie's relationship is cordial. Not super tight, but they're not indifferent to each other either, and that's good enough.
One thing about the OG Dance Moms girls is that they always have something to say about Abby, and it's usually not positive. Except for JoJo Siwa, of course. Chloe mentioned that even though Dance Moms set her up for success, for which she's very grateful, she's not interested in reaching out to Abby or reconciling. However, Chloe did express sympathy for Abby's current situation, given her struggles with cancer. It's a complicated dynamic, to say the least.
You just want to move forward.
I have a life of peace now, and I have a
And you wanna
successful
keep it that
career
way.
now,
Yeah.
and it's in
Yeah.
spite of her, not
Right.
because of her. So I'm gonna keep it pushing.
It's really sad that none of the OG Dance Moms girls have positive memories of Abby and want nothing to do with her. If Abby had been kinder to them, she'd probably be surrounded by love from these successful girls now.
But as they say, you reap what you sow, and karma never misses its target. Take Chloe, for example. One of the lowest things Abby did was make fun of Chloe's eyes, knowing she had a medical condition called silent sinus syndrome that could affect how they looked. There were plenty of other things Abby could have used to attack Chloe. Not that she should have, but she went for her medical condition. It was really the lowest of the low.
The reason I left Dance Moms was because my former dance teacher made fun of a medical condition I have. And if you watched a video that I released on my YouTube a couple of years ago, I have a condition called silent sinus syndrome. Some might say that it wasn't that serious what she said, which I would disagree. She was really rough on me that year. We were at nationals. My mom was actually sticking up for one of my friends that I used to dance with. My dance teacher decided to start yelling at my mom about me. We were in the back room and we weren't supposed to be there, but we heard everything that was said. The crew that took care of the girls, they would always separate us from that, which was great. But I just happened to be listening and I heard everything she said, and they didn't show it on Dance Moms, and it's not really said a lot, but she made fun of me.
To make matters even worse, Abby didn't just harass the kids for no reason. She also targeted their mothers. She made sure the girls were always in the room to witness their mothers being yelled at and insulted. I mean, what could shake a child's self-esteem more than seeing their parent being humiliated? It's just heartbreaking. To make matters even worse, Abby didn't just harass the kids for no reason. She also targeted their mothers.
She made sure the girls were always in the room to witness their mothers being yelled at and insulted. I mean, what could shake a child's self-esteem more than seeing their parent being humiliated? It's just heartbreaking.
Ava, you're too tall for us today. You're cut.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Honey, you're a great dancer. You're gonna be successful. You can get away from your mother and get great training. Go.
Get away from me.
Thinking about it now, this reunion should have been called Surviving Abby Lee Miller, because that's exactly what these girls did. Deep down, it seemed like Abby had a real vendetta against Chloe. Why? Because Chloe was a threat. She could compete on the same level as Abby's favorite, Maddie. It's heartbreaking, really. Chloe is such a sweetheart, and she deserves so much better. Despite the abuse they endured, Chloe and the other girls were all nodding and agreeing with her, except for JoJo. We see you, JoJo. She seemed to just show up to promote her career and remind everyone how grateful they should be. Anyway, that's it for Chloe's closure. It's super awesome that she's no longer listening to people who tell her she's not good enough, because she is. Thank you all for watching, and buckle up for the next messy video.